always seemed to be missing within this wonderful, whimsical, beautiful, curated, nurturing world that Meghan creates. When we as Black women were the ones driving up the sales of Le Creuset sets and making her spaghetti and ordering her wine, like the Black domestic goddess movement that was on display after season 1, that was Black women.
It was a callous ploy to gain followers, to ignite a tension that was already existing. And yeah, she got a lot of people on her side, but the reality is she was raised mostly by her white father. Most of her friends are white. She married white men. This woman just doesn't really, and I can't speak to everything, so this is just my personal opinion from what I've observed, is she's not really culturally Black.
Developing today, Meghan Markle's and Prince Harry's friends are pushing back over criticism in regards to With Love Meghan Series 2, suggesting that Brits who criticize the Netflix series are just not classy enough to understand what the fake Duchess is doing. Meanwhile, Meghan having to push back on another front with Black female influencers criticizing the lack of Blackness in the series. So we're going to get into all of this with Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network. But first, let me take you through this infuriating story revealed by Richard Eden in the Daily Mail. British viewers not sufficiently classy to enjoy Meghan's Netflix series and are too cynical, unlike Americans. That's the incendiary claim of Harry's friend revealed by Richard Eden, and he doesn't stop there. So this is Alex Rayner, and we are, he claims, not sufficiently classy and too cynical to enjoy the glossy series filmed in Montecito, the wealthy Californian enclave, where Prince Harry and Meghan live in a £19.5 million mansion with wine cellar, cinema, gym, pool, spa, tennis court, wood fire stove, barbecue, and 13.5 bathrooms. Alex Rayner, who went to the North Pole with Harry on a charity trek in 2012, says, "I'd argue it's made for the American market maybe a little bit more than for us. We're a little bit more cynical. For us, we're about old Mrs. Miggins over the Argard doing her marmalade, whereas in America, they're a little bit more classy about it. They want a bit more." Now, Rayner was educated, like Harry, at Eton College and insists that the Duchess's range of goods to accompany the series sold under her As Ever label should be celebrated. He said, "I think she gets a really tough rap about it. What she tries to do with her food at As Ever is absolutely fantastic. Both Harry and his father are passionate about sustainable field to fork methods, and that's very much what Meghan's all about as well, but people pillory her. There's an enormous level of support and an appetite to see what Harry and Meghan get up to, as with any member of the royal family." Now, this is the new attack dog, Brittany, isn't it? This is the new attack dog, because Alex Rayner was also sent out to completely try and trash Sophie Chandoka in the Centre Bali row. But I really struggle to think that just slamming all Brits as unsophisticated and saying that we're not classy enough to understand With Love Meghan is probably not the correct PR strategy. What do you make of it?
Oh man, this is a terrible one. I mean, that most Americans think the Brits are much classier than we are. I mean, you guys use a fork and a knife when you eat, and we just use the fork. And so you guys have obviously more class than we do when it comes to eating at the table. But when it comes to this show, a lot of Americans don't like it either. It is very out of touch, very sort of glossy and just sort of picture perfect, but in like that unrealistic way. It feels very, very artificial, very, very fake. Nobody likes Meghan Markle. I don't meet anyone who likes Meghan Markle in the States. I hardly ever, once or twice maybe. People just don't like her even here. And she gets the rap she does for a reason. It's because in order to make her money, what she did is she trashed her in laws, trashed her own family, and then attempts to seem like, oh, I'm just a happy homemaker who invites everybody into my home. When we all know she won't invite her actual, what should be her nearest and dearest into her home. She won't invite her in-laws. She won't invite her father or her half siblings. You know, her mother's questionable. I don't know what happened to the niece that was around for a hot second. Meghan just does not have any of the qualities she's trying to shill. And that's why nobody likes this show. Nobody agrees with the show. Class has nothing to do with it because Meghan's not classy. This show is not classy. It is just an artificial mess of an idea that Meghan doesn't know how to execute, in addition to the disaster that is her brand.
Now, Brittany, you know, I actually despise identity politics, okay? I hate it. However, I think the thing that I probably hate more is hypocrisy. And I think there's a really developing view that Meghan Markle used identity politics, used woke claims of racism to try and launch herself in the US while also bringing down the British royal family. While actually, when you look at her post-royal family career, she hasn't backed it up. She hasn't practiced what she preaches at all. Because indeed, she has leaned into what some would describe as her whiteness rather than her blackness. Now, as I say, these are not usually debates that I get into, Brittany, because for me, I see the world in a colorblind way. I believe that's how we should look at the world. But given Nancy Sidley flagged to me this video and wrote, "This is so sincere, empathetic, and coming from a good faith place, it's nice to know that strong women are finally waking up to Meghan Markle. I thought it was worth us having a discussion about." So this is the influencer, Inspiratrix, who responded to Meghan Markle's With Love Meghan trailer 2 and a lack of black women like this. If you're enjoying what we're doing here on Outspoken, please consider joining our thriving community over on Substack, www.outspoken.live. You can sign up completely for free, but Substack is so important to me. It is a free speech platform. It protects me from big tech cancellation. Plus, you get to communicate directly with me. Head on over www.outspoken.live, enter your email address, and sign up today.
Her hang out with Tracy Robbins, the wife of the former Paramount exec. We've seen her with Kerry Washington and of course Serena. We've seen particularly famous black people or famous adjacent black people around her, but none of what seems to be her more organic friends, the high school friends, the college friends. We haven't seen those people be black, and we've seen those people though, and they've been white. So again, I'm just saying, it's curious. And it's curious that with the season 2, I'm not saying there's no black people in the show. They just aren't in the trailer. Now, I would assume if you had Coleman Domingo as a guest on season 2, you would put his ass in the trailer. So a trailer is a teaser. It's a taste of what to come. And it's interesting that I don't see any blackness to come in this show with a woman who is mixed race and has specifically a black mother. At a point, it's just like, what's happening? What's the intention? What's the purpose here? Because black women specifically have gone to bat for her, have supported her, have lifted her up in ways that other people just weren't. When other people were critiquing her just for fucking being black, just for looking how she looks.
Well, unfortunately, I have to tell you, black women who supported Meghan Markle, for that reason, you were suckered. And I tried to tell you at the time that you had been suckered, because Meghan Markle was raised as a white woman. There's nothing wrong with that. But she lent into her blackness when she was trying to spread false racism claims about the royal family. So that's why I don't have a huge issue with this pushback. Although what I would say to Inspiratrix is that Meghan Markle was never attacked because of the color of her skin. And we've really got to change that narrative, because if Meghan Markle had been attacked for the color of her skin, then the entire British population would not have embraced her joining the royal family, would not have stopped for an entire day to celebrate on one of the most glorious days for this kingdom I can remember in some time. But there was more. Watch this.
We largely were the people holding her down and fighting these crazies off on her behalf. And it's not that she owes us anything, but again, it is interesting to know, and I do believe she knows, the demographic of her supporters are. But again, it's just curious that we always seem to be missing within this wonderful, whimsical, beautiful, curated, nurturing world that Meghan creates. When we as Black women were the ones driving up the sales of Le Creuset sets and making her spaghetti and ordering her wine, like the Black domestic goddess movement that was on display after season 1, that was Black women. And so, again, it's just interesting to me how Blackness seems to be featured or not featured in her life. It's disconcerting, and because I know it could be different, right? Like, she has the resources to have this show be so inclusive, and to, season 1, she talked a little bit about her background, her grandmother making, sun tea and fried chicken and all that. So it's like, we know that the Blackness exists because you talk about it at times. But again, it's just so interesting, the guests that she features on her show and how they are not, they're not Black. Like, even season 1, the only Black person that was on the show was Tracy Robbins, her friend.
Brittany, I don't think this Blackness does exist in Meghan Markle's life. So I think she fooled women like this, because what she was actually trying to do was use her mixed race to try and drag the royal family down. But now that that has failed, she doesn't embrace it, because it was never a big part of her life. She was raised by her father, her white father, Thomas Markle. But first, let's be honest, what passes for journalism today is little more than politically charged activism with a headline slapped on top. Truth gets buried under layers of spin, agenda, and algorithm-driven narratives. That's why I turn to Ground News. It cuts straight through the noise and shows you exactly what's happening. Ground News brings together headlines from over 50,000 sources across the globe, but what really makes it powerful is the transparency. You don't just see the stories, you see the political bias behind every source, the ownership ties, and the coverage breakdown across the spectrum. That's why over 1 million people have downloaded Ground News. Even the Nobel Peace Center praised it as an excellent way to stay informed, avoid echo chambers, and expand your worldview. See for yourself at ground.news/outspoken. My favorite feature is the blind spot feed. It shows you which stories are blowing up on one side of the aisle, but barely mentioned on the other. It's the clearest way to see media bias in action. So here's an example of a story barely getting any traction on the right. Joe Rogan just accused the Trump administration of gaslighting its own supporters over the Epstein scandal. It's a rare moment of someone considered to be on the right openly calling out Trump's team in such blunt terms. And here's one the left is completely ignoring. Reports say Kash Patel discovered burn bags stuffed with classified documents tied to the Trump-Russia probe. In other words, there may have been a deliberate effort to destroy evidence, yet almost no one on the left wants to touch it. I wonder why. With every story, Ground News shows you the entire spectrum of who's reporting from left, right, and centre, and how reliable each source is. Also, importantly, who owns each outlet? It's everything the corporate press doesn't want you to see or know. And right now, you can get 40% off the Vantage plan, which gives you unlimited access to all the features I personally use for just $5 per month. Just visit ground.news/outspoken, click the link in the description, or scan the QR code on screen. That's ground.news/outspoken. But now, back to the show.
Yeah, I just do find it to be very sad because some of her followers, I hate to say it, they were suckered.
Yes.
They were led to believe a lie, which is that the criticism against Meghan was due to the color of her skin, when in fact, especially as time went on, the criticism was as a result of the content of her character. That is what she was being judged by. That is still what she is being judged by. And she knew if she used this particular shield, especially in the Oprah Winfrey interview, because this is just a little bit less than a year after the riots in 2020, BLM and everything. Meghan knew exactly what she was doing. And it worked initially too when she first entered in, because it scared a lot of the royal reporters, because she called them all racist and they're like, that's not what we are doing at all. And so they they use kid gloves with her basically. And then she goes on and doubled down on Oprah, and she knew exactly what she was doing. It was a callous ploy to gain followers, to ignite a tension that was already existing. And yeah, she got a lot of people on her side, but the reality is she was raised mostly by her white father. Most of her friends are white. She married white men. This woman just doesn't really, and I can't speak to everything, so this is just my personal opinion from what I've observed, is she's not really culturally black. I hate to say it that way, but that's the only thing I can come to, is that her periphery, basically the people who are closest to her, all have a particular skin tone. And outside of that, yes, she has some friends, but they're mostly famous and they're mostly useful. Beyond that, Meghan tends to stick to how sort of she was raised, and that's not an issue at all, but it's just something that I think people are starting to come to terms with, especially as wokeness is sort of starting to ebb out and people are sort of realizing how fake it was in the first place. Megan's whole fake narrative, and this is the always the problem with pushing a fake narrative, at some point people might wake up and realize you were lying the entire time. And I think, in my personal opinion, that's what's happening with Meghan and some of her fans.
Totally. And then, Brittany, more questions being asked in the mainstream media about why Netflix really signed Harry and Meghan. For example, this from The Independent: Harry and Meghan's TV deal has been an almighty flop. Netflix is crazy to ask for more. The Sussexes have signed a new deal with the streamer, having produced a run of forgettable programs over the past few years. Netflix might want this, but does anyone else? And Fiona Sturgis in the newspaper writes, what are Netflix thinking in signing the Sussexes a second time? The most likely explanation is to keep them on side and away from rival networks. For all their professional failures, the couple remain a source of fascination to the public on both sides of the pond, who can't get enough of the rolling royal soap opera. Should the pair have another bust up with the fam, or even with each other, the streamer will be perfectly placed to make another blockbuster expose. I found that really interesting analysis, Brittany. It's almost like a catch and kill deal. That's something that tabloid newspapers used to do a lot. It's like, we're going to buy this story off the market. And this first look deal does actually make it difficult for Harry and Meghan if they do want to get something away on another broadcaster.
Mhm. Yes, it does. It's a definitely a controlling deal, you could say. And Netflix knows. And we even saw with their future projects, they were all very lame and underwhelming. And so it's like, it's not like they had something super cool in the offing or anything like that. It's just a holiday special, a movie that's been in production for 2 years that they might never get to, and a short documentary that was made by somebody else, most likely. And Harry and Meghan just came on the last minute. So it's not like we can see and Netflix announce something that's super exciting in the pipeline. Netflix is there for the divorce. That's it. They are there for the divorce and another bust up. That's what they want to make sure they capture, because it is the fifth highest ranking documentary on their platform, is the Harry and Meghan one. And that's what they're looking for. They don't really care about anything else. They don't care about As Ever. They're just sort of biding their time, because I think Netflix knows probably better than anyone else how poorly things are going behind the scenes. In some ways, I think we're especially seeing divergence in what Harry and Meghan actually want to do professionally. And I think that's impacting things. And Netflix is just there hoping for the drama. The royal soap opera is what sells. Harry and Meghan in their other projects could not even get a fourth of the viewership of their initial series. I did the math. It's like 40 million some odd views for Harry and Meghan, and everything else, I think it was like 7 or 8 or something million. So Netflix definitely did not sign them because they are superstars or anything like that. They're there for the drama. They're there for the divorce. That's the only reason Netflix is sticking around.
Yes, and also, can we just make it clear that just because Netflix has signed a deal with you doesn't mean that they're endorsing you as a person, given their latest deal is with Jussie Smollett, you know, the guy who
Very true.
who faked his race hate attack. Speaking of as ever, and I couldn't agree more, Brittany, this idea that Netflix cares about as ever, they don't. Meghan cares about as ever, and it's just a tiny little side project for Netflix because they do it with all of their big shows now, you know, Squid Game and Bridgerton and stuff. It's like, let's just offer some add-ons. It's just an add-on. It is absolutely not their core business. Sure, they want to grow it, but it's a very, very small part of what they do. And I think you can tell when you're looking at Meghan's, what do you call it, like branding, artwork, marketing, because it's so bad, Brittany, and it's actually getting worse. It's like no one has looked at it. And did you see this from Radar Online, talking about Meghan Markle's questionable question skills coming under fire yet again because she's so unhygienic, and a bug was spotted crawling in cookies that were posted to this video. So they write that she attempted to show off the results of her as ever shortbread mix, and after displaying the cookies on what appeared to be a rusted baking sheet, outraged social media critics roasted the Diva Duchess for her gross and unhygienic insect-infested presentation, which turned her sweet moment into a PR disaster. They also pointed out the cringeworthy cookie presentation, which I thought was so bad, Brittany. But it's pretty appalling if this is a Netflix-backed operation, that they just haven't got this together at all. It looks awful.
It really does. That's something I've criticized Megan for a long time, is that she's missing just key branding and marketing things that she should be doing. She's showing this pan of cookies, but it looks almost like AI. Like I can't even tell totally if it's real or not. And it doesn't look super appetizing. And the key thing that she continues to miss is that she says the team did this. Well, show you making this, show you how you did it, how you made the frosting, how you added the sprinkles. That's what people want to know. A cookie sheet means nothing. Like anybody can come up with that. You can put the input into AI and probably come up with that. And obviously the flyer or whatever, also very questionable. I can't remember seeing the video super closely. So I was like, was that really Meghan ducking the cookie in? The branding and marketing for this has been atrocious from the beginning, and I firmly believe based on how we've seen Netflix market something like Wednesday recently with the Wendy's collaboration and everything, Netflix does not care about as ever. It's not generating any money. And it's also very convenient, if you think about it, that all of a sudden after Meghan probably inked her Netflix deal, all of a sudden her wine's not selling out and she's struggling to sell it. And so this idea that there's this huge market share for her, I think is really just false assumptions, and things aren't moving. It's all artificial, just like her show. And at the end of the day, I don't think Netflix is putting any effort into this. They don't think it's a money generator. It's just basically money they know they're throwing down the tube at her, and just to keep her busy and occupied. And then again, hopefully to get the divorce deal somewhere down the line. Netflix doesn't care about this. They don't see it as a money generator, maker, anything. Otherwise, they'd actually be trying. And it's clear that Meghan's running the show because it's the worst thing I've ever seen, pretty much, from a branding and marketing perspective, from somebody at her level who has infinite resources to throw at something like this.
I did want to ask you what's going on with the wine, Brittany, because can I just look at your new post on this? Yeah. So you wrote, yikes, things must be getting bad. Meghan is not only begging people to buy the wine, saying it's a limited supply and making sure to say it's their founder's favourite, but she's even liking her own as ever post. She hasn't done that before. Also, if it's her favourite, she should actually try drinking it. That's like marketing 101. How would I know it's Meghan's favourite? She hasn't had a single glass as far as we know. So you think, what, she's struggling to sell out?
Yeah, it's still for sale, and she's made at least 2 comments of, "Oh, it's limited. Oh, it's limited," and it's just not selling out. I looked, I think, yesterday when I pulled it up, and it definitely was still for sale. I don't think I've looked today, and she's actually liking her own post. So Megan liked an as ever post. And I looked through some of the older posts, and I haven't really seen that before. And so I think Megan is just trying to get people interested in it, and calling it the founder's favorite, again, this like third person view or whatever that they're doing is just a little bit ridiculous. And the key thing for Megan is, if she wants to tell people her wine is so good, why doesn't she drink it? We have not seen a single glass pass her lips yet. And it's, sort of monkey see, monkey do. If she likes it, then she should drink it and show how she is using it in her recipes. This is what influencers do anymore. You watch Gwyneth Paltrow and you watch her make something for her boyfriend breakfast, and it looks delicious. She looks like she's an actual chef in a kitchen, and you want to eat what she's making. And so you want the recipe she used. Megan, why would I want her wine? She doesn't drink it. She doesn't use it. She just has, blurry pictures of herself with it. And I'm like, what are we supposed to do with this? It's just the one of the worst things I've ever seen, honestly.
Can we also speak about Prince Harry's latest charity scandal, Brittany? Because we know he's under huge pressure in regards to Centre Bali, although Dr. Sophie Chandoka ain't taking it lying down and obviously intends to continue with the good work that has been done in Africa. And we know that there are even people on the Centre Bali board with serious links to Prince William. So I hope that Centre Bali turns around and becomes a success without Prince Harry. But what about Africa Parks, which is almost being overlooked? And so I have to give credit to Newsweek. I have to, because they're very often in Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's corner, but they are right to keep on this story. Brittany, with this latest headline, Prince Harry urged to quit charity where abuse allegations were upheld, and they're quoting Jonathan Mazowa, who is the communications director at Survival International, who told Newsweek, "We think that Prince Harry and anyone else involved in African parks should either commit the organization to a completely new way of doing business or step down." Now, Brittany, it feels to me like this is the scandal that to this point Harry has got away with, which is astonishing given, I would argue, what's been going on with African parks is actually far, far more serious than this personality clash, which has caused a lot of issues within Centre Bali.
Yes, it definitely is a huge issue. If people aren't familiar, there were allegations that basically the guards of African parks were abusing the local community. And it seems like those allegations have been upheld. The challenge for some of this, though, is sort of the remoteness of the region and the difficulty sometimes of people getting stories or independent news outlets being able to go out and interview somebody. I talked about this a little bit at the time, which makes it a bit more challenging. But Harry, despite all the evidence about these issues going on, it just remains completely silent. I think Harry just doesn't know what to do anymore. But the answer here is so simple. There are obviously things going on that shouldn't be. So it's best just to let go of your position within the organization and just move on. And I think Harry's desperately clinging to anything in Africa, probably at this point. But the scandal is very real, very, very serious. And obviously, there are things that are going on that are inappropriate. And the organization is, in my opinion, essentially somewhat allowing it to happen because they don't want to monitor things as well as they should. And yeah, this is the end result. So I think Harry should step down. I don't know why he's taking so long, but he's just sitting there as if nothing is going wrong, and he should be addressing this situation.
Of course he should. And I have to say, by the way, shame on the British Bashing Corporation, the BBC, that sat down with Prince Harry for that interview just a few months ago. It was made very clear by the BBC that nothing was off limits. They could have asked anything, and they didn't ask one question about the scandal at the African Parks charity, which you would think the BBC, given their huge breadth of reporting and the fact that they have a lot of staff in Africa and they report a lot in the African region that they would actually care about. But no, they didn't ask one question. So what that means is Prince Harry has actually never been challenged on the situation at African parks, which I think is a total disgrace. But we will keep on the story. And of course, and I know that you will too, you must follow and subscribe to the Royal News Network on YouTube, where you get so much more brilliant analysis from Brittany on a day-to-day basis. But I love having you as part of Outspoken, Brittany, and we will speak next week. And of course, if you do want first access to the Royal Uncancelled After Show here on Outspoken, then just sign up to my Substack. www.outspoken.live is the address. If you go for the monthly paid subscription, you will get first access to that Royal Uncancelled After Show every single weekday. So that's Monday to Friday, and you can watch it either live or on demand, but with no advertising whatsoever. Substack is a community, though. You can communicate with me directly on there. We do live chats. It really is such an important place because it's free speech orientated, which is why it's been very, very important for me in my journey since becoming independent. So would love you to be part of it. Would mean a lot to me if you like Outspoken, you want to support what I do and my independent journalism. www.outspoken.live is the address.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.